I had to test it. I had to see if this paint could reactivate before finishing this video. Like, I had to know. Let me just say this. This food item that makes this paint is godsend. It makes professional quality paint, professional level paint without the professional price. Stick around to see what I'm talking about. Hello, and welcome back to the Place for Artists. As you can tell by the title, we're going to be making paint from. So recently I was watching the SuperRaeDizzles video on art hacks, which I will link the video down below if you want to check it out. She's amazing. But I'm going to be testing out paint, as it really did seem really close to a watercolor paint and less acrylic or oil or any of those mediums, and less what tempera paint is in today's age. So here are these swatches. Again, like I said, the yellow is so vibrant because I added so much of it, and I wish I would have done the same thing with the others. But one thing I want to say is with these swatches, they seemed just like regular watercolors. Like, the more pigment you add, the more vibrant they are, but you can clearly see they are transparent and you can see the paper through the pigment. And I did end up using a black from my Komorebi set because I could not find black food coloring. I looked for a week, I gave up. So I'm going to be using this, which is a good example because we can test actual watercolor right next side to the and see how it goes with the sketch. So I just did something really rough, nothing too fancy, and I'm going to start off how I start every painting. Maybe I should have dabbled a little better in figuring it out, but I said, you know what? We aren't going to treat them like anything else. We're just going to treat them exactly how I would do watercolor painting. First impressions, it's pretty much watercolor paint, but a little thicker. So what I mean by thicker is the paint is kind of viscous. I will point it out when I'm painting the shirt. You will see how it kind of sits on top of the paper and then it seeps into the paper and it kind of feathers. It feathers, but it doesn't, because when I painted along the edges of the face, like right where the nose is and right now, no feathering at all. When you layer color on top of another, they like bleed into each other, and I don't know how else to say it except it was amazing. So I really realized how thick it was when I was doing the hair because I'm using a pretty great brush. I'm using the Creative Inspiration brush line, and whenever I use this size brush, I think it's a 6, I never had problems with it not retaining water, but I think because this is mixed with the viscosity of it is a little thicker, so the brush can't hold as much paint, so you find yourself dipping in the well a lot. But besides that, it went on super smooth. I like that you could create texture. The colors blended well because I did end up adding some additional color to the hair. So here is where I am painting that shirt, and honestly, you can really see just how thick the paint is. I think that the paint dries extremely even. That's one thing I will say is there's no chunks. It's not chunky or anything. It's just completely smooth. And I was kind of shocked because I figured it would have some sort of texture. And I've painted on this paper a lot. I am currently painting on the Saunders Waterford 300 GSM 100% cotton paper. I wanted to give this paint its best shot, and so I use this watercolor paper. And one thing I want to say is the texture that this paint gives on this paper is to die for. If you love that very textured cold press look on your artwork, use some on some Saunders watercolor for paper because it's amazing. This is when we're getting into the first, second layer and how it blends. Like, you can clearly see where I added in more color and gave a little warmth to the eyelids and then the peak of the nose and the lips and the ears. And when I added on the layer for the base skin tone, they just melded together in a good way though. In a good way. It retained that warmth in the areas I wanted it to, but it also blended in and got rid of the really harsh lines that I had. Here you can see I added texture to the hair, threw in some different colors, and I'm adding another layer to deepen the color. I think that's one thing you can do with this paint. You can very much and very well build up the paint. But when I came to doing this background, this is when I realized maybe using pigments would have been better than some gel food coloring. Because when I got to the bottom half, I decided, you know what? I want it to fade into a lighter misty yellow in the center of the page. Trying to lift the paint from the corner behind her neck was a bit rough. I was really scrubbing my brush at that paper and it barely lifted. So hindsight, if you are going to paint and make this recipe as I did with some cheap food coloring, just know, do your layers really light because there's no going back. So yeah, this is when I started mixing in that black because I wanted to use it last, and I added the black to the navy blue hair color to give her like a shadow roux ombre moment. And the pigment on the black took extremely well. You know, it's not like rubbing off or anything. It was working just fine. So I would say, even if you are just lacking some colors or you need a quick fill in, you could easily use this recipe. But one thing I want to test is I want to test the light fastness of this paint because it's made with and it is made with food coloring. I don't know how well the light fastness would work, but for anybody who's really poor and if you've got water and some food coloring, you have a really good quality paint that can get you really far until you can afford real pigments and maybe a watercolor set. So the pros I would say for this paint is it dries very even. The paint layers beautifully. It's really easy to make. I mean, I made a beautiful piece of art and I'm actually really in love with this piece of art work that I created with this paint. For cons, I want to say it is very viscous. It's a little thick, so it kind of does take a little more paint than normal. Be careful with the jar you use because my jar is starting to grow some weird thick stuff on the bottom. That might be because I did put in it. So possible con, will it mold at some point? But besides that, this paint is great for beginners, and as a person who's a little more intermediate professional, I loved working with it. One, you're gonna need some sort of bowl to take the egg yolks from the eggs, I guess. And then I have 4 eggs. I'm not really sure how many eggs I will need, but I figured because I'm only using the yolks, probably will need 4 for a decent amount of mixture to add color to. I'm too poor to afford actual pigment, so for the color, I got this really cheap gel food coloring. It came with a green, but what I was more concerned with was getting a red, a blue, and a yellow. So I guess we will just jump right in and start making the egg tempura. Oh, you'll also need a cup of warm water and a chopstick for mixing the yolk. So let's get right into it. So pretty much what I'm gonna do is I'm going to separate my egg yolks from the egg whites. I'm just gonna crack them into this bowl. And honestly, this was kind of nasty to do, not gonna lie. Eggs have never freaked me out more than they have today. But I'm gonna just kind of roll them on my hand. I only did this once because I got way too lazy and I was just like, it's not that important to do this. So I took my little dauber thing and I just poked the yolk and I added just the mixture from the inside of the egg yolk sack into my warm water. I grabbed my chopstick and then I just whipped together the egg yolk with the water. I didn't add anything else to it. It's just a little bit of warm tap water and some egg yolk. So I added green into the cup and then I just took a little bit of the egg mixture and added that to the cup. I just kind of eyeballed it, wasn't using any specific measurements. And then I just kind of mixed it up. I was trying to show you guys it, but it was really hard to see. And then I'm just going to do the same thing with the yellow paint. The red did not add enough red. I ended up adding more, but it kind of looked like brains because it was gel food coloring. And then I did blue. Okay, so here is my egg painting. I really enjoyed this process and this adventure of making my own paint. It was a little odd to like try to pop the yolk and get it all out, and I was like, eh. But besides that, painting with it was extremely fun. If you guys want to try this, definitely comment down below and let me know what you'd like to see next. And you can always tag me in any creations that you create at Shop Ruby Porter. So if you guys like this video, hit the like button. It's free and it really does help my channel grow. 2, if you enjoy me and you want to be a part of the place for artists, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I am getting so close to reaching 600 subscribers, and thank you to every one of you who subscribes and has stuck around through this crazy, fantastic journey. But I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!